Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou. It's whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewie, sir. How are you?
Kia ora, Pat. It is me, friend Chewie.
I've just turned my phone off, put it on silent. I realise as well, Chewie, as we are one to know, we haven't quite had our sound check yet. So let me just play some grooves in the background and make sure that we're all operating as we catch up and say, how was your weekend? Can you hear that?
Yes, I can hear those smooth grooves.
Okay, well, that will be all we're going to play. Love songs till midnight. How are you, man? What's going on? What's crack-a-lackin'?
I had a relatively chill weekend. Obviously, working, retail life, and all of that sort of stuff. I think that the thing that I got the biggest kick out of, if that's the right way to describe it, is this absolute masterstroke operation that the Ukrainians pulled off against the Russians.
All those inexpensive drones knocking out 41 planes worth billions of dollars or something.
The 41 hasn't been confirmed yet, but definitely billions and billions of dollars worth of irreplaceable Russian bombers.
With their little DJI drones.
Couple of $1,000 worth of drones. Like, they were planning that operation for 18 months.
Oh, really?
And if you look at that timeline, it becomes really interesting, because that moment that President Zelensky was in the White House, getting absolutely raked over the coals by Trump in that god-awful ambush he pulled off.
Yep.
Saying, you can't win this, you don't have the cards. Zelensky knew that they were planning that operation. And he just sat on it.
I wonder if he gave Trump a call today.
The Ukrainians did not include to the Americans that they were going to do this. Absolute operational security, and just the Russians, I think for anybody in the military security space will be looking at their airfields and where they keep their airplanes and going, oh shit, this is where we are now. That drone strike thing is quite terrifying, and you've seen it a little bit in the Middle East as well, where basically a C4 laden, explosive laden drone just cruises into someone or cruises into a building and then just hits, and then it goes. So they don't have to be, they're not laser guided, they're not worth millions of dollars, they're not having to be launched from a submarine, a ship, or a plane. It's just little bro with his little joysticks are able just to fly it around. And it's actually kind of overall, for the sake of conversation around war, kind of a terrifying expansion they've got of almost low-jacking war. Yeah, I've got a friend who's currently working on a paper about new warfare, I guess you'd call it, the new weapons of war, the new battle space and that sort of thing. And he said the stuff that's coming out of Ukraine now from a point of necessity is crazy. Like, it's expensive to fire missiles at hundreds and hundreds of drones. So they sort of go, well, what if we get some high quality cameras and thermal images, strap an old machine gun to it, stick them on the top of our buildings, and network them all with AI? Will that work? And the answer is fucking yes, it does.
Wow.
So they're pulling off some crazy stuff because they have to. Yeah. But yes, that's my war nerd weekend.
Necessity is the mother of all invention. Is that what they say?
Yep. Absolutely.
Hey team, bit of a strange old week this week. Hope you kind of got you survived last night not having BHN on a Monday night. But this week you've got me and Chewie for 2 nights. And then you've got the kids for 2 nights because Chewie and I are travelling to Auckland on Thursday to attend the Radio and Podcast Awards. And then on Friday night, of course, we have a meetup in Auckland. If you're a patron, if you head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News, all the details are there as to the patrons meetup. So there's a meetup which is patrons only. And then at 7 p.m. on Friday night, we have an opportunity for everyone to come into Central Auckland and do a group meetup at the Long Room. It's on Ponsonby Road. Can't remember the number. Oh, there you go, 114 Ponsonby Road. We've got a little area set aside, and I don't know, how long will we be there for, Chewie? A couple of hours, maybe? Don't know.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty likely.
We'll figure it out. So 7 p.m. this Friday night, Friday the 6th, Chewie and I will be at Long Room in Ponsonby if anyone in Auckland wants to come along for a little bit of a meetup. And Chewie, I've just realised this new system they've got set up, they've got rid of all my icons again. So we'll just keep talking for a bit longer while I reset up all my icons so I can change our layout, because they've decided to change on me again. I need that one, and I need that one, and I need that one. I think that's about it. Oh, did you help us out there? Did you help a brother out?
I did nothing.
Did you not do anything? Because it just
No, I literally didn't touch anything.
weird. Okay. Also, a couple of notices. I am speaking to Marilyn Waring tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow lunchtime-ish. She is a little bit sick. She got a bit of the flu, so she doesn't want to commit to later in the evening live, which is fair enough. And so I'm going to have a chat with her lunchtime-ish, and that, of course, is on the People's Court. Is that what it's called? The People's Court? The People's Committee. Should be the People's Court. That's better. And they're going to hold a, I guess, submission process for the public to come and speak about the Equal Pay Act. You can't say being abolished, but you can say almost like being raised to this point, and hey, don't pass go, don't collect 200, let's start all over again with different rules to our game of Monopoly. So that episode or that conversation will be played tomorrow night. And the last little notice, Chewie, I want to say I'm very proud of everybody, and I'm very excited to say at the end of May, which was the weekend, we managed to raise enough funds for 45 safe nights.
Nice.
How
well
cool
done,
was
guys.
that? Yeah, well done, team.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
Everyone who bought a hoodie or a t-shirt in the month of May contributed to a $900 donation to Women's Refuge, which I made over the weekend. Oh, who is this? Patrick they speak of, though. I don't know who that is. It must be a typo. So a donation of $900 to Women's Refuge, thanks to you guys, which equates to 45 safe nights, Chewie, which I think is pretty amazing from you guys. Thank you so much. And I'm sure there was more, because there would have been people who didn't buy merch but went straight there and donated. So let's just call it 1,000, shall we? It's 1,000.
Yeah.
That's what we'll say. Which is kind of choice. Speaking of, we are at the moment, some people would have got notices today for their merch being put on a courier. And we've got about another 20 orders out in that room out there. We've been working on them this evening, actually, that we are going to put on a courier tomorrow. About the only ones that won't go on a courier tomorrow are people who ordered Women's Refuge specific merch, the purple hoodies and stuff, in the last 3 or so days of May, because I put an order in last Thursday. So if you ordered on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, then yours will come next week. But that's only the Women's Refuge. Everyone else, we can basically fulfill your orders, because if people are buying, fuck around, find out we've got black t-shirts and black hoodies, so they'll all be getting they'll all be getting fulfilled. And we're going to continue that on as a reminder. People who are buying the fuck around and find out gear, you have a chance to also get yourself a 5-pack of fuck around and find out stickers. We'll keep that going. We might even just keep it going through June. So fuck around and find out is there in hoodies, black and white, and in tees, black and white, either or. You can get black, you can get white. There they are. Not that I know why anyone would ever get a white, because black is the sleekest. And if you buy a fuck around and find out, then we will chuck a 5-pack of fuck around find out stickers in with it, with every single order, t-shirt or hoodie. Other than that, everything's still there. The stuff that's still available, I know there's some stuff that's sold out, some sizes that have sold out. Heads up to you, we're doing a big stock take this weekend on all of the blanks, all of the t-shirts and hoodies we have in the office, and then I will be updating the back end of this in the weekend, and then we will know exactly how many we've got, and we'll know exactly how many we need to order. So, they're my family notices for now, Chewie. bhnshop.nz. Anything else you want to add to that, Chewie? That very important meeting?
Buy t-shirts. Clothe your meat bags with cotton.
I noticed
Soft.
there's some people who bought stickers, one in particular, twice actually, who I think is also coming to the meetup, and I could have just brought them along to the meetup, but they're going on the courier tomorrow. Just easier. All right. Nice. I think the last thing, not to be too sort of notice heavy, we won't do that. No, we're not going to do that. If you like what we do, Patreon link is down at the bottom of the screen, just because on the Patreon page is all the meeting details for patrons only. Sorry, not to be too exclusive, but patrons only. And we're going to put on a bit of food and have a bit of a hangout with the patrons at a particular time at a particular place that patrons can find out about on patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Cool, man. What else? Anything else?
Oh, not related, but you talking about things shipping. I'm going to mention it. That band that I went to the US to see, Murder by Death, they've released their, supposedly their final album. And they did it on Patreon, and I purchased like the big super fan edition with 3 records, t-shirt, jacket patch, stickers, colouring in book, fucking everything. And I'm seeing people in the US are starting to receive theirs. I know I live in New Zealand, so I have to
6
wait for
months from now
to be rowed out before I can have it, and I'm sad, and I hate the tyranny of distance and the horribleness of international shipping.
I thought, Chewie, I know you often, I think often, Sphere, travel to Wellington for various gigs and stuff. Depending on how Friday night goes with our Patreon meetup, I thought, well, maybe next time Chewie goes to Wellington for a Saturday night gig, maybe we should go up on the Friday and do a Friday night meetup in Wellington. Just a little thought. So
I'm going up in August.
Well, there you go. Maybe we can tie something in. And so for people in Wellington, if you'd like to do a in real life meetup, then encourage the people in Auckland to come along on Friday night. Because if it's just me and Chewie sitting there over a beer, then And then of course,
it'll be funny because I'm going up for that gig and 2 days of tattooing, so I won't be able to use my arms. I'll need a sippy cup.
And that'll be the day we play Dead Arm, just for fun. Just for fun.
Fuck.
And then we've got Christchurch, and then we've got Dunedin as well. So, and I know that there's lots of people who are in none of those areas, but I guess we can only do what we can only do. If we end up doing Waitangi next year and we end up doing a road trip, then we'll make it much more evident where we're going to be when some of the smaller centres as well. Okay, Chewie. I'm just trying to think what we should talk about first.
Whatever will we talk about? What happened? What happened?
Let's talk about.
Are you gonna do the cone hotline?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Or are you gonna do? We're gonna do the cones, are we?
We're not doing that right now, but we will get. We'll get onto that. We'll get onto that.
Oh, Seymour.
Let's start here.
I saw
Seymour. I've messaged Mr. Seymour in the last couple of days, asking again, would he consider coming on? Once again, we hear nothing back from the right now. well, most of the time. I did get an email back from Mr. Luxon's team once saying he's unavailable, and I just said, okay, when would we be next? Because, if you're not going to come on, we're not going to waste our time. And they went, no, keep asking. So we do. Because even this interview, this is with Chris Lynch in Christchurch, raises so many other questions. Right. Let's have a look at this part of the conversation. This is David Seymour. He is a French-Canadian politician that's recently moved to New Zealand. And he wants to educate us about lots of things in this first part. That New Zealand traffics in envy. That's one of the things. And I think there's so many times that Seymour gets it so close, but he doesn't quite get it. Like when he talks about all those people paying tax, and he's so close, but he's talking about the top 3%, not the bottom 97%. So he's close. He's close. So let's have a listen to Mr. Seymour talking about how New Zealand traffics in envy and other bits and bobs on Chris Lynch's show. This was in the weekend.
In today's speech, you said our opponents traffic in the idealisation of envy. What do you mean by that?
Well, I love this country, but it's always had a dark underbelly, which is our tall poppy syndrome.
I agree it's a dark underbelly. I don't think it's a tall poppy syndrome, Mr. Seymour. I think there's much that is darker and more underbelly-ish than... Well, New Zealand does have a tall poppy syndrome, but I don't think that's the thing that enables vulnerable people to turn their lights on or off at night time. I don't think that's what it is.
And it's also true that politicians around the world can do a huge amount of, electioneering and vote winning, basically by promising other people's money. You find 10 people, you take their money and give it to 100 people, and you end up winning the election.
I always find it hilarious, Chewie, when politicians talk about, they're just trying to buy votes. And you're like, yep, that's what all politicians do. They do things like, there will be a COVID inquiry if we get in. And people go, okay, because I want that. You're buying their votes. Winston Peters, for some reason, goes, we're going to have a penis policeman in every single bathroom. And there are some people out there that will buy their vote. But they always seem to have an issue talking about how the other side buys their votes. Why don't we all be honest and say, this is called politics. Sometimes it will be financial. I mean, this government bought votes by talking about refitting out Dunedin's hospital, by talking about tax cuts. So this government has taken money to offer back to other people to buy votes. And I just wrote this down. Here's my question, Mr. Seymour, because he won't come on. So imagine you've got 10 people, and those 10 people earn $100, and out of that $100, they get taxed $10. Okay, cool. And then you've got 2 people, and they make $1,000, and out of that $1,000, they get taxed $100. That means the first group of people have been taxed 10%. The second group of people have been taxed 1%, but the second group of people, which is only 2 people, have put twice as much in tax money into the coffers. But who do you think is going to be impacted more? The ones with $90 left or the ones with $900 left? The ones with $900 have put more into the system. They've put less in proportionally, it's only 1%. And the ones who have put more proportionally in, but less actual value, have only got $90 left out of their 100. Who is it going to impact more? To me, that's the question I want to see asked, Chewie, and just see what Mr. Seymour says. Who do you think is going to be impacted more? Because the word fair, F-A-I-R, can be used many ways. Is it fair that the people with more money might put more into the coffers, even though it's less proportionally? Or is it fair? Is it fair that they would be asked to put more in? Is it fair that the ones at the bottom who put more in proportionally but less to the total are then left worse off? What's the fair outcome here? Chewie?
I like people like David Seymour because they're simple souls. Because they're always talking about how asking people that are doing well to do more is this politics of envy.
Yeah.
And when anybody talks about any sort of socialist program, like maybe if everybody contributed to healthcare, we could buy a hospital every now and then. It's always very specific things that he has a problem with, not looking at the fact that roads are a socialist program when you look at them that way. He'll be the first to say that communism doesn't work in theory, but neither does libertarianism. Neither does this fucking bananas world that he thinks where all tax is theft and everybody should just build a compound and live by themselves, fearful of the unwashed masses gathering outside their gates. That is something that has happened. You know, fucking heads on pikes if it gets out of control. So, I mean, this is. I also have to point out the fact that this is our deputy prime minister now, which is fucking terrifying. He had a gathering in the weekend, a celebratory, masturbatory, pat on the back breakfast for his inner circle. Now that
that's what Chris is talking about. Chris is talking about the speech. That's the speech from that celebration.
Yeah, it just bananas. Like, who does this? Like, is it something that is happening now, or is it this guy huffing his own farts because he's managed to climb these heady heights, and now he's letting everybody know that anybody that's wronged him is on a list?
Yeah. We'll move on. But the other thing I was going to say is, sorry, I'm just being asked if I fear the dog. Yes, I fear the dog. These are the kinds of questions I would like to ask Mr. Seymour. How much do you think would be a fair amount? Like, because I think what happens is we use these words, but actually, and I think I've used this example before when I got a deck built when I was in Auckland, and the guy said, hardwood or softwood? And I was like, oh, well, what's the difference? Oh, hardwood's much more expensive. Oh, well, okay, let's get softwood. So we got softwood, got to the end of the job. It was about a $5,000 or $6,000 job. And that's when he told me it would have been $500 more for hardwood. So without the context of knowing what he considered so much more, like, of course I would have paid 6.5 for hardwood rather than 6 for softwood. So what I want to know is, what are the numbers? So Mr. Seymour, we're talking about being fair. How much is a fair amount of tax to pay? How much would be fair for the millionaire? How much would be fair for the beneficiary or the underworked? You know, the people who are working a part-time job whilst they're still looking for a full-time job. What would be the fair amount? And see what he's got to say.
That often gets left out, doesn't it? This man standing up for the rights of the taxpayer conveniently seems to forget that the beneficiary is a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers. So why is it just that you're talking about a very specific taxpayer?
I mean, you're right. Literally everyone. A tourist is a taxpayer. They buy petrol, they buy goods, and it's GST. Everyone. There would be no one in this country who doesn't contribute to the tax pool. No one.
Everybody understands that there is a downside to cheap, right? It is worth spending more to get a better product, to get a better result, that sort of thing. If you were to turn around and go, well, look, if you're doing this well, we are going to take this from you, but with that, you are going to buy a hospital. You are going to buy better schools. You are going to get cars off the road, whatever. But there's a benefit. But what these guys have been doing since they started their term of government is running everything down. So the next stage for that is to say, see, the taxpayer's getting very poor value. We've done that.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pay any tax. Like, if people in the Scandinavian countries that we always talk about, very high levels of taxation, always mention that they pay a lot of tax. But they're also the happiest societies on earth. They have fantastic public service. They have all of these things that we want. They have a gold-plated education system. They've been able to do all of this because they got together and said, look at all of this stuff. This is how we did it. All of the things, like especially education from this man, all of the things that are too expensive and that we can't possibly do, we have done before. It's not impossible. So why does this mewling little fucking cockslime not get it? Why is it impossible to him?
Well,
Like, I'm not going to be nice about this. I saw a comment go, oh, this Chris Lynch guy is a dickhead. I just had a Google. Yes, he is. So David Seymour's got time to go on on whatever this podcast pseudo news show with this guy who's a person that believes in the great replacement theory, but he'll duck our emails. Righto.
All right, well, let's keep going, shall we?
Yeah.
That's why a relatively small minority of New Zealanders pay a vastly disproportionate amount of all tax. It's also why.
Hang on, but that's the exact point. A vastly disproportionate amount. That means they're paying more proportionally. There are a group of people who are paying vastly disproportionate amount of tax, and it's the poor. They're literally the ones who disproportionately pay, because they're the ones who don't have enough left over at the end of the day to put some in the bank. All of their money gets taxed, all of it. Whereas the wealthy, they have stuff they can put away. They have less proportionally that they pay on tax. So that's just flat out wrong, what Mr. Seymour is saying there.
Amount of all tax. It's also why politicians like to make rules that they put to restrict how you can develop your property, what you can say, who you can do business with, how you can work, how you can be employed.
I'd like to know the who you can do business with thing. I'd like to go, Mr. Seymour, what are you talking about? Where are the restrictions on who we can do business with? Are you talking about, like, for example, 16-year-olds can't buy beer? You can't do business with them? What's the restrictions on who you can do business with? I'm confused about that one.
Anybody worth their salt would have jumped in their boots and all and gone, hang on. Let's go through all of these things you just listed.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep going.
How you can be an employer. There's always benefits, politically at least, for taking away other people's money and other people's freedom to reward your voters.
Again, how much is okay? Where's your line, Mr. I'd like to know literally how much is okay to quote unquote take away, or does this libertarian actually want zero tax? Like, would that be the ideal Shangri-La world? Like, because following the theory of smaller government is better, therefore zero would be the perfect number. Less tax is better. Would zero be the perfect number? I'd like to sit down with someone and figure that out. What's the number are we talking about here? Because there is a natural progression to smaller, or less. When do we stop? When do we go, okay, that's enough? I genuinely would like to know where that line is, because I haven't got a clue, because it's always rhetoric. It's always sort of, you're doing it wrong, it should be less. And then it's nothing else is followed up on.
Do you believe in a progressive tax policy? Or do you believe in flat tax, or do you believe in no tax? Like, for a guy that's obsessed with tax, he should be able to answer that. Whether it actually stacks up in economic theory or not, that's a completely different story. But all of these guys hark back to a world where the wealthy were massively taxed. Not on all of their earnings. This is the thing, I think the thing that they all gloss over is that you're not taxed 90% on everything you make. You're taxed that much over a certain amount. Like, it's the same for all of us. I'm in a different tax bracket than someone that's on the beneficiaries. Most people, when they talk about tax, all come back to the same thing, that we have not touched our tax brackets meaningfully in decades. And now it's the average wage is in a higher tax bracket. It's madness. But nobody's going to have the sensible conversation to sit down to it, because part of that is going to be the rich need to do more.
We're going to hear from Mr. Seymour here, just to the last 40 seconds of this clip, first of all, as to why he wants political power. Right? He talks about why other people want political power, and then he explains why he wants it.
However, that approach in the long term makes us all poorer, because what it really says is, if you're someone who's doing something positive and productive, then politics will come after you. And that's why I try in my career to win political power
Bullshit.
so that I can not use it the way that others have. I want to win political power so we can uphold a free society under the rule of law where people can get on with making a difference in their own lives. And
So how is it? And this is the thing. How have we? That's the society we're living in now. So you can retire, because how is that not the society we're living in now?
if there's people who need help,
Have we not had that?
often creating an environment with good economic growth, it's easier to build homes, they're more affordable. Those are the sorts of conditions that will actually help ensure that New Zealand, and any other country for that matter, prospers for everybody.
It's the idea. I've got a couple more clips. The other ones are much shorter. It's the idea of someone kind of going, if only we had this thing, and you're like, yeah, we've got that thing. But if you acknowledge that we got that thing, then you can't stir up the fear, and it's FEAR now, to your base to get them to vote for you. What part of that about people growing up and doing what they want to be? What part of that don't we have today, sitting in this country? Because the whole thing, who you can do business with. What are you talking about? I genuinely want to have David Seymour here so I can go, can you please unpack that? What are you talking about? Who you can do business with? There's restrictions on who. How does this work? Explain it to me.
And it's funny when you listen to it. Well, it's not funny. It's fucking infuriating. When he talks in the fact and the way that he's talking about the individual, right? He's not. He's talking about corporations. He's talking about businesses. He's talking. There's too many regulations. They've got to give too many holidays. They've got to make sure that their workers don't get fed into the thresher. And the fact that the government requires you to put handrails around the thresher is costing New Zealand productivity and New Zealand businesses profit. This underlines everything. It shows up in his conversations about the RMA. It comes up with everything around the RSB bill is about giving more power, less restriction to corporations. That's what David Seymour is all about. That's a big chunk of why he's so anti-Māori, because Te Tiriti really reins in the power that big overseas corporations could have.
Yeah.
So let's run down Māori. Let's say that they're a drain on productivity. Let's say that all of this, making sure that we acknowledge the land and we don't pollute and spoil and strip mine and all of that sort of stuff. Let's just blame Māori for that.
Yeah.
Everything he talks about, when you look at that through that lens, it's really fucking clear. It's not individual freedom.
Yeah.
That's a fig leaf for what he's about.
Yeah.
There are people that are out there that want to say horrible things about Māori or Muslims or trans people. And that's just a small fraction of what he's about, that people should be able to say whatever horrible things they want without consequence.
Yeah.
As a society, when have we ever had that?
Yeah.
Never.
We're going to talk later on, and I kind of ummed and ahed about this. Should we do the Chris Bishop at the AMAs? And we are going to talk about it because one of the reasons we're going to talk about it is his reaction, what a load of crap. And look, can I just suggest, and this is just a thought, I don't know if this is for real, although some people have said it is, why aren't we talking about a pissed up minister at a public event? Why is that not part of this conversation?
It's a breach of the cabinet manual.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is the whole what a load of crap is indicative of what you're saying, Chewie. It's indicative of this government's attitudes towards Māori altogether. We'll keep our powder dry on that because we are going to talk about it because I think it's important. But before we do, let's just have a look at a couple of messages. Then we're going to go into, because he talked with David Seymour about RNZ, and I think it's quite good to have a conversation around the media today. And this is one of the things we do, commentate on the commentators. Ryjan said David Seymour becoming deputy was my worst birthday gift ever. Kiwi Bird says David Smith is referring to doing business with Snapchat. You people are bad. Peter Symes says I heard David Seymour as an example of the worst person in the world. Arvid says can't do business with. I think it's his way of saying he can't Snapchat younger and younger people. DS, David Seymour, DPM, Deputy Prime Minister, equals dumb shit doing paid misery. And finally, Arvid says DS, David Seymour is the quote, "We haven't tried real ideology," end quote, kind. So yes. All right. So let's get to this. Let's get to the second part of the conversation. And there are some more super chats here, which we'll get to later. I'll just bring up the ones that were particularly related to what we just talked about. I can hide you and I can do that. So it's been quite a big day in New Zealand media today, right? NZME had a board shake-up. We all heard the conversations around Jim Grennan, and Jim Grennan was going to be that billionaire Canadian who was going to take it over and become the board chair. He's not. Stephen Joyce. Now, I know people will react badly to Stephen Joyce being a national minister. A lot of the guys in radio who are a bit older today, Stephen Joyce was the owner of 1XX, I think it was, and then was one of the people who started up More FM. So he actually has got radio pedigree, but he's been voted the director and chair of that. So that's happened today. And then also what's happened today is Trade Me has taken a 50% stake in Stuff Digital. Now, I had a bit of a squiz through this article, couldn't quite see it, but I think I read, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I think I read that Sinead Boucher bought something for $1, that she just sold half of it for $1 million. I think that's what I read or saw a headline somewhere. I could be wrong with that, but, you know, obviously...
No, that's correct. She bought it for $1.
I know that much, but then sold half of it for $1 million. That's what I'm not 100% sure on. That's a pretty good return. What is it about go woke, go broke? Isn't that supposed to be the situation? David Seymour talking to Chris Lynch about why RNZ hates him, quote unquote. Why do they hate you? And I just wanted to show this a little bit because the number of lies that come out in this about RNZ, and I'll show them to you from the deputy. We won't even say minister anymore. From the deputy prime minister, is shocking. Let me put it out there before we get going. RNZ should not have to or need to check their numbers. They are a public broadcaster, and if you're going to work the public broadcasting system as a clickbait entity needing to get listeners, then it's not a public broadcaster. A public broadcaster should be playing by choice and actually by direction small insignificant things that only are tailored to a small sector of society. Their absolute direction should be about providing back to New Zealand the face that represents New Zealand and not worry about what the ratings are. So I think RNZ's made a mistake with getting involved, and always have, because they shouldn't. They should be having small audience niche ideas, which basically means, because if you're going to go for numbers, then you're never going to say, hey, let's have that niche show on. That's not going to draw numbers, but it's an important voice to hear in community. So I couldn't give a crap about RNZ's numbers. But of course, in this conversation, what we're about to hear is they've just released some of their latest numbers and they're terrible. Now, because they're terrible, because that means they're failing. It's like, well, if you're a niche company providing a very narrow service to a very small number of people, but that was your niche, just because you're small, it doesn't mean you fail. It means you're providing a niche result to a niche audience. Public broadcasting should be like that. Absolutely should be like that. Let's have a listen.
Why does RNZ hate you and the ACT Party?
Well, some of them don't. Actually, I have a good relationship with the gallery. Morning Report, they've got their own problems, and just look at their ratings in freefall, have been for years. I think they've recently gone a bit nuts over the school lunches. They did about 100 stories, and yet, now the problems are all solved. The scheme is being...
You might have missed what he just said. Apparently school lunches are solved. So keep an eye on that one, because he's just said now that it's solved. We'll see.
Enjoyed by the students, saving 50% off the cost to the taxpayer, $130 million saving this year, $170 million next year. But I think part of the problem is Radio New Zealand doesn't like reporting anything positive. So, because we've got a good news story now, we're off their radar.
Radio New Zealand ratings have dropped significantly. Its funding has been cut, and ACT has been celebrating its decline, I see on Twitter. Why?
That's a good question.
Well, it's pretty simple. Everyone else in the media has had to downsize, become more efficient, far more...
Everyone else in the public media is what should be compared to, right? They're not a commercial radio station. Their mandate shouldn't be to get the most ears possible. Their mandate should be telling New Zealand stories. That's why I had the big spiel at the front about their numbers shouldn't matter.
simple. Everyone else in the media has had to downsize, become more efficient, file more stories per day, and really think hard about how they satisfy their audience. In the last 5 years, RNZ's gone from 280 full-time equivalents to 316. So if you do the maths on that, they've actually had about a 12.5%, I think, percent increase in staff. Don't quote me on that maths, but it's around about that. They're living in la-la land. And I think a bit of pressure to actually do good journalism, satisfy the audience, might be good. And hopefully the rest of the organisation can become as professional as their press gallery team.
What I've noticed, RNZ does shut down comments on their social media pages on stories about Te Paati Maori and Jacinda Ardern, but
look, I don't know whether I agree or disagree with that policy overall, but I wonder why. Because RNZ doesn't want a bunch of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists blasting the C word at a former prime minister all over their sites, or a bunch of racists on the other one. Yeah, that's what they should just let racism flow. You know, like, I mean, we don't block any messages through to us. Sometimes YouTube does, but we never actively do it. But it's like, I mean, like I said, I don't know if I'd be turning them off, but you can understand why. You can understand why.
Is he going to mention the Herald shutting down comments on their stories?
Doubt it very, very much. Doubt it. But we'll keep going.
Okay.
throws the gates wide open when it comes to the current government under fire. Therefore, is RNZ actually serving the public, or is it protecting its ideological allies?
Well, I hadn't noticed that trend in their comment moderation, and they may have their own reason for doing that. But look, ultimately, they have a real problem that their ratings and their trust are in freefall. They can point out that...
And why is that, Mr. Seymour? Why is media around the world trust in freefall? Because, I mean, if you're having this conversation, honestly, you'd say it's one of two reasons, either because they're untrustworthy or because a group of people have painted a narrative that they're untrustworthy when they're not. I would submit option 2 to you, Mr. Seymour. And we saw it starting with Trump, and we've seen it going through the rest of the world, especially because groups like ACT or New Zealand First have used that model to basically be able to go, they can't criticise us because they're woke. They can't criticize us because you can't trust media. You know, and that's really all it is a sector of society has gone, they've laid enough bullshit foundation that these places being untrustworthy, so they can now go, well, you can't trust them. You know, it's exactly what they've done. I mean, I would challenge any politician or any group that said that not to go to the public and say, who do you trust? But go to the articles and go to the actual media outlets and test what they're saying, whether it's trustworthy or not. That would be a piece of research worth doing, because people can be idiots, people can be fooled, people can be wrong. If you actually check the media outlets and check if their stories are accurate or inaccurate, that would be the way to figure it out. But who's done that? Like, no one, Chewie? Maybe a couple of people in America?
I mean, this is just David Seymour taking an axe to another publicly funded institution.
Yeah.
Like, to weaken it, to raise questions about its integrity, to raise questions about its value to the country. The Radio New Zealand mandate is not a commercial mandate. It never has been. It's been
and it shouldn't be.
Benefit of all New Zealanders.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's to tell New Zealand stories. And that's it. And it's amazing what frees up when you're not worried about some sort of commercial, you know, aspiration, clicks and that sort of thing. Personally, I think Radio New Zealand shouldn't have comment sections. I think all news stories shouldn't have comment sections. You know, when we had newspapers, and
what
you
are they?
could read a story and
What's a newspaper?
format your own decision without having the hand-scrawled ramblings of crazy people underneath every story. God, they were simple times. But this is the thing, like, Radio New Zealand's mandate far exceeds whatever we spend on it. There's amazing documentary and archival stuff that Radio New Zealand has done. They have a role to play in a national emergency. All of these sort of things that you might sort of go to a commercial operation, hey, you've got to do some of the heavy lifting on this as well, but it's always going to be a secondary thing. But who benefits if Radio New Zealand goes away? Who benefits if we have less media investigating politicians or corporations, business operations, things going on outside of your area of perception? Who benefits? Well, certainly some of the shady fucks that want to fund ACT. So this is greeted by my immediate suspicion.
Yeah.
I'm also going to note the way that this Chris Lynch guy has framed that question. He's definitely flying the flag for an unbiased, independent media, isn't he? You may as well just set that question up on a T-ball stand for David there.
I mean, I suspect people who are fans, supporters of a different political ideology to us will say exactly the same things when we interview Marama. You know, it's like I don't know Chris personally, but he was at ZB when I was at ZB. I've had plenty of cordial conversations with him. What I hear is someone with a political ideology, like we have a political ideology that comes out in this broadcasting. You should have seen some of the comments we got when we had the Paati Maori leaders in. Oh, you never asked about child abuse? It's like, no, it's not a subject matter we wanted to talk about. It's we have other things to talk about.
Paati Maori.
But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what some of you guys are seeing in this interview is what the opposing view to us saw in our interview. So like it's all a wash to me, to be honest. I'm more interested in what the politicians say than what the interviewer says, because the politician is the person that we hold accountable. The media interviewer, not so much. That's what I think.
I think I'm just connecting the dots here for the shows that this guy's willing to go on.
Yeah, of course.
Platform.
Of
this
course.
guy, and it's just,
Yeah, but hang on. But Chewie, just to be fair, the Greens don't go on the platform, but they'll come on here. Look, that's what I'm saying. I don't really care about that conversation because I get it. All I care about is the information coming out of the politician's mouth to critique. Labor don't go on the platform, but they come on here.
Yes, they do.
It's a wash.
Yes, they do.
Okay, maybe, but not very much. I mean, I've had conversations with some Labor people behind the scenes about what they will and won't go on. So look, all I'm saying is that the other side say exactly the same thing about Marama coming on here versus the platform. I'm not giving them a defense. I'm just going, that's all. It's like that's. What does Marama say? What does David say? That's what I'm looking at.
I think what I'm trying to point out here in my own clumsy, ham-fisted way, is as our mainstream media outlets fracture and dissolve, and Radio New Zealand gets torn down and that sort of thing, and we end up with people like us, like Chris Lynch, like the platform, like Reality Check Radio. We are going to have pet politicians talking to their pet constituents about their pet projects on their pet platforms. Yeah. And we're all going to be worse off for it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All of us.
I agree. And that's why we'll keep asking. We'll keep asking. Look, this has got a couple of minutes to go, this clip, and we hasn't got to the bit we're going to fact check yet either. Let's keep going.
But other media face the similar challenges. That may be true, but the whole point of the government owning them is they're supposed to be different. And
I want to make this quite clear. Yeah.
But hang on, David. If they're supposed to be different, why are you fucking comparing them to the commercial entity? Because they're different.
I want to make this quite clear. You're not suggesting that RNZ needs to give you perhaps favourable coverage. You're suggesting more balance, right?
Well, I'm not suggesting anything other than everyone else has had a huge.
I'm just asking questions, Chewie. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking questions.
Squeeze. I try and work with them as well as I can, but we've cut their budget because they clearly need to get the same message the rest of the media's been getting. Their trust and their ratings are in free fall, and we're not going to keep giving them taxpayers' money when they're not delivering.
See, that's an interesting point now. David Seymour just said we're not going to keep giving RNZ money when they're in free fall. He's literally saying if they don't become a commercial entity, we won't fund them. If they don't get more listeners, we won't fund them. Now, he's got no power to do that, but this is the Deputy Prime Minister talking about a public broadcaster and saying, well, they need more listeners or we're going to get rid of them. Just bookmark that one.
I actually spoke to former Labour Minister Stuart Nash on Friday, and we both agree that the whole kind of notion of this gotcha journalism belongs perhaps to a bygone era of the late 90s when television ruled the media landscape, and I think the world's moved on and people are wanting just...
Sorry, just a little side note here. When he spoke to the minister on Friday, it was here on Free Speech Fridays on the platform. So that was when he spoke to him, which he's entitled to do, but that was where he spoke to him.
Yeah, I know. I just wonder
Politicians
when he's going to be a New Zealand First MP rather than an ex-Labour MP.
So questions. It kind of feels like RNZ, and this is what he said, is sort of stuck in the past in an outdated mode of journalism where gotcha reigns supreme. Do you agree with that kind of sentiment?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, I got interviewed by Guy on Espina, and I use Guy as an example because he's someone I do actually have a bit of time for. But, you know, he's interviewing me on this 30-minute uncensored concept he's got. You know, he's lucky to get 8,000 views on YouTube.
He's lucky to get 8,000 views. That means they're pretty much all under 8,000 views. He's lucky to get 8,000 views. We've got to listen real careful, Deputy Prime Minister.
The concept he's got. You know, he's lucky to get 8,000 views on YouTube with that show. We get 20 or 30,000 just from me walking across the bridge in Parliament getting interviewed for journalists. It cost us nothing to make, and we whip it up there in 10 minutes. You know, that's the difference, right? Now, but you think about it, this is a guy who was a really big deal. I mean, he was on TVNZ News at 6 o'clock talking to 500,000 people. He was on Morning Report talking to 500,000 people. Now he's lucky to get 8,000. And I actually think he's a pretty decent guy, but it just shows actually what he's been doing hasn't been that good all along. The way he tried to interview me.
So what he's doing now means he's never been good. That's what Seymour just said.
He wasn't that good, but hey, look, maybe it'll make for some entertainment. You know, I think it shows that people now have more choice. And in a way, what's happened with the media is not that it's got worse. It's kept doing what it's always doing. Just a whole lot of people have just decided to go elsewhere. So
we're going to have a look at this. Lucky to get 8,000. So here's 30 with Guy and Espina. Last episode, 103,000. 23,000. This clip's only had 600 views, 1,600 views, 10,000, 2,500, 7,400, 103,000, 8,000, 22,000. Scroll down, 14,000, 20,000. So it's factually incorrect. So David Seymour is lying about RNZ. So that's factually incorrect.
A deputy prime minister is telling a bald-faced lie about a publicly funded news information show that didn't treat him well enough. Is that the
but remember the second part of his conversation. Oh, we do a video and slap it up, 20 to 30,000 views. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay.
5,000, 3,000, 7,000, 4,500.
Oh, he's got his numbers mixed up. That's
13,000, 15,000, 19,000. There's one that's 20 to 30,000. 13,000, 2,500, 13,000, 43,000. That's above. 9,000, 8,000, 938, 14,000. You get my point. My point is he says RNZ needs to compete like we do. Look at this example of a show that gets very few viewers. We just proved that to not be accurate to what he said. When we get so many more, we just proved that not to be accurate as to what he said. So I don't know whether Seymour is actively knowing that he's lying, because he might just be pulling numbers out of his ass because he's in an interview. Or he is actually knows exactly what he's doing. He wants to defund RNZ, and this is a part of his tactic to get it done. Chewie.
All of that, I don't know if it's just a politician talk about ratings. It seems very Trumpian there. I wonder if he's so focused on numbers. I wonder how Mihi's wee documentary on him.
While you're looking that up, let me just say as well, because we were talking about Hipkins. Looks like he has been on the platform a few times. Not for over a year though. Like there's 2 years ago. We went on 2 years ago. And then 2 years ago, it would seem, a year ago. And just so you know, for YouTube, basically what happens is you get 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, 1 year. And then I don't think it clicks over again until 2 years. So if it says 1 year ago, it might be 1 year and 10 months. So they don't go on a lot. And then maybe there's a new policy at the moment. I don't know. But the point I was making during that little conversation was everyone in public has a bias or a perspective towards the media outlets they like, and they have venom towards the people that refuse to go on them. That's why I say to you very clearly, I never feel entitled to someone's time, ever. Anyone, even people who do come on, we're not entitled to their time. They're entitled to make whatever decision they want. But I also know in this game, our supporters will go, bah, he won't even come on. Whereas Plunkett supporters will go, bah, Marama won't even come on. You know, it's a wash.
Yeah, but we're better people.
maybe. So anyway, there's the that's a good chunk of the conversation around that. It's pretty dystopian what he's talking about with RNZ. If they basically him saying, well, actually literally him saying, without quoting him, I would like to remove funding from them if their numbers don't grow. That's a pretty scary thing for a deputy prime minister to say. And yet, who else has said that in the media in the last couple of days? No one's picked up on that.
It's also our second deputy prime minister to say similar things about
true.
Radio New Zealand funding, right?
True.
Mihi's documentary into David Seymour and the ACT Party, 64,000 views in 14 days.
That's barely 8,000 though, Chewie. 64,000 is barely 8,000, eh? Just so I'm clear. Look, can I say this as well? I'll say this as well. I think I saw it on Newsroom. Newsroom did like a diary of what's old mate who does the new NZME, New Zealand Herald live show, AM show, Bridges.
Ryan Bridge.
Ryan. Newsroom did like the diary of Ryan Bridge, and they started off by going pretending it was his diary on the first day of that new show. Our 17 viewers. I think picking out numbers is really silly and really dangerous because so if you're going, well, this is not worth watching. It's only got 17 viewers. When they've got 17,000 live viewers, then you look like a goose. We have had people who have actively looked at what we've done back in the day with a show that's had a couple of hundred views, highlight it, laugh at it, go, and now we're much bigger than some of these places and people that did that. I don't ever think that we should talk down numbers. You know, people on a social media that have got 107 followers, I never tend to go, oh, you go talk to your 107 followers, because in 10 weeks they might be 500,000 followers. You know, I just don't think that's a winning a winning word structure for conversation. You know, a winning tactic.
Certainly not a good angle to play for the leader of a political party who got 8%.
Yeah, because that's the most important number. There's some more. Here we go. Let's do some more super chats and then we'll keep moving as well. Arvid says, Mata reports ACT, the foreign influences that have shaped David Seymour's political agenda. RNZ, 64,000 views, 13 days. I've been, just so you guys know as well, I've been talking to Mihi over the last wee while. We're planning on bringing them on tonight, actually the whole team. But there was some, it doesn't matter what was going on, some stuff that didn't work in our favour to get them. So hopefully we'll have Mihi next week to talk about it. And I think she said, if it's not too old by then, I don't think this will ever be too old. I think we can talk about this whenever. Arvid's, this is lucky to get 8%. Yeah, there you go, 8,000 or 8%. Ian, clickbait journalism is unsafe and untrustworthy because being first and most sensational is all antithetical. Got it? Betcha. I betcha. Antithetical to integrity and fact checking. You don't use that kind of word to a dyslexic. It's unfair. Just saying you up front. Kids gave up complaining. The adults weren't doing anything about it in their eyes, says Danger of Mouse. Gold says any media outlet hates David Seymour because he's the worst example of a human being out there. A couple of other messages that have come in as well. Big Olby says Jacinda Ardern's book out today, A Different Kind of Power. Yeah, we couldn't get it, Jacinda, unfortunately. I thought we might get it because I used to have her every week when I was working for a radio station, but you know, powers that be. And Peter says, I'm still pissed at Richardson getting an honour. I have to say that I think
Yes.
there was a very slow news day yesterday. I happened to look at the One News. They did about 20 minutes on the King's birthday honours. It's like 20 minutes. Like honestly, I was zipping
it's a bit
through it and
excessive.
I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. Just before we go, D-Bot, look, again, to me, irrelevant. Chris Lynch gets under 2K views. It's a Christchurch-based show. It's for Christchurch people, and he gets some other people in. So that's what he really does. He focuses on Christchurch for Christchurch. And look, some of our episodes get 2K. I think one of them last week got 2K. Is what it is. I don't look at numbers and think that's a pro or the example I always give is James Coleman. James Coleman used to do a show on Channel Z in the afternoon from the Plush Lounge, best radio show in the country, won all the radio awards every single year.
remember it.
Was on Channel Z with a really small audience. Audience size doesn't mean quality. Audience size doesn't mean success. Just it's a byproduct. It's not a focus point, basically. In saying that, make sure you subscribe. No, I'm just kidding.
The pivot. So good. Can we talk briefly about Ruth Richardson getting a fucking
Yeah,
King's birthday honour?
I've
Can-
gotten.
can
We can, but I don't have really anything to offer.
I just want to make one
Yeah.
quick point, right? It's taken 30 years for someone to think that she's worthy of trotting it out. I'm not sure how the nomination process or who decides who gets those honours or that sort of thing, but it does seem to me to be, at this stage with this government, a political action. Like previous governments did not think that she was worth putting up for an honour. This government was happy to sign off on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think I think anyone can nominate anyone. Maybe
So
she's been
who
nominated in the past.
nominated Ruth fucking Richardson?
Yeah, Rose got it right.
Who?
Where's Rose gone? There you go. Rose got it right.
Yeah. Like, for what? Services to hell?
Services to Beelzebub. What's she got it for?
Jesus.
Hey, speaking of Beelzebub, speaking of the devil, let's talk about New Zealand music. Interesting conversation over the weekend.
Oh, yeah, let's get into this one.
People who are listening to the audio podcast, we're about to watch the clip. Everyone's probably seen this over the weekend of Minister Chris Bishop. I will read out the words as they come out, so because you can't hear it very well from the audio. So this is Minister Chris Bishop with what some people are claiming is a skinful, right? Just so we're clear. What a load of crap.
It's the way he says it too, it's got some real venom to it.
Yeah.
Māori, get down!
Yes. Performative acclaim. Let's all stand up. And then Don McGlashan calls him a dickhead.
There's someone that should have got a King's birthday honour.
I've interviewed Don McLean on one of my podcasts. We had a great debate on
Don McGlashan.
Don McGlashan, sorry.
Don
We had a
McLean.
great debate on how far is halfway down Dominion Road, because now Dominion Road has Dominion Road Extension. Apparently someone of their own accord put a bronze thing into the ground, and the fight's always been, well, that's not halfway down Dominion Road because Dominion Road now has Dominion Road Extension. So that's what that was all about. Now, look, I think that this is really... I think what you hear here is the government's rhetoric around Māori issues and te tiriti. For someone to sit there as a minister and say, what a load of crap, and then try and sell it that it was being too politicised. I mean, NWA, all they did was political. Sex Pistols, about the Queen, all they did was political. To say that we shouldn't be politicising music...
It's dumb, Pat. It's so dumb.
But do you know what it's done today as well? And I listened to it, and it was like listening to an 80-year-old shout at the clouds. I listened to Plunkett on the Maorification of New Zealand music. and the public money. This kind of thing shouldn't be happening. Like, honestly, it sounded like a drunk old uncle trying to figure out a way to spin this as best he could for an audience that wanted red meat. To me, it's indicative, the comments, of two things. I would be surprised if there wasn't a lot of liquor under his belt.
Yeah.
People are reporting he had a beer in his hand, because the way it was said, but that's a cricket commentary from someone in the stands who's been sitting watching the cricket all day, drinking all day. That's what you hear about a dismissal that's just been given. It's the drunk guy up the back of the stand. So I guess I have to be careful not to say he was, because maybe he wasn't, but it certainly comes off as that. And there have been other reports to say that, which does also raise the question. They were very quick to talk about Tory whānau when it came to alcohol issues out in public. What about this one? No problems, no big deal, no nothing. If he was pissed, I'll say if, just for my safety. And yeah, the idea of trying to then sell the idea that you shouldn't be politicizing that kind of thing. Have you never listened to a band before? Do you know who Midnight Oil is? It's like...
I tell you who he does know. He's a big She-Hard fan.
Oh.
Went to four of their final run concerts.
They're not
sung all the
political
songs.
When he went... that's what we should have done.
When he sat there and said that music shouldn't be political, and I know he's a She-Hard fan, I was like, do you listen in a way that's different from me? Do you realize that one of their more recent albums is pretty much shitting on the government that you were part of? Like, did you miss that? Are you unaware of how political music has always been? Like, you mentioned Midnight Oil. I mentioned She-Hard. I like punk music. It's all fucking political. Herbs. Dave Dobbin's got political songs. Everybody in New Zealand music's got political songs. As far as fucking Oliver Plunkett banging on about the modification of New Zealand music, hold on, bruv. Who was doing music in New Zealand first? Can we talk about the remodification of New Zealand music? How about that? Some of our biggest artists have been Māori.
One of the best things to come out of that conversation is now they're all now those people with those tinfoil hats and beyond are all on Luxon's back. Do you know why? Because Luxon said, if I see Maorification, I'll call it out. And guess what?
Yeah.
He hasn't called this out. So, right, I mean, like, rightfully so, but this is where they get into a little stupor. We have a bit of a news story to watch here about it as well. Let's do this, because this is about the response to it and what actually went down, and the Prime Minister's response.
The Prime Minister says he's comfortable with Chris Bishop's response after the senior minister
he's
was
always
caught saying,
fucking
"What a
comfortable,
load of
isn't
crap," at the Aotearoa Music Awards. The remark was made during a performance by Stan Walker, which heavily featured Toi Tu Te Tiriti banners. Producers of the awards have since responded, saying the comment had no place at the ceremony. Christopher Luxon told Breakfast he's had a word with the minister.
People have lots of different ranges and different reactions to music
word?
and what they
Good
like
one.
and don't like. I like a lot of country music. People don't sometimes, I find. Look, he said, he should have kept his thoughts to himself. I'm comfortable with that.
I was frustrated and annoyed by the sort of overt politicking around it.
Can you pause that there, Pat?
Yes.
He was frustrated and annoyed, was he? I wonder if then, at the brief, if this man had any self-awareness at all, he might have a brief window there to work out how annoyed Māori are that their fucking existence is always being politicised by this government. I'm sorry you had to sit through a free Stan Walker performance and it made you feel uncomfortable and annoyed. Sit down and shut the fuck up. He can come on the show and field that statement if you like.
I hate it when you get a really good idea for a guest mid-conversation, but we should try and get John Toogood on tomorrow. Let's talk about politicking and music, shall we? I'll try afterwards.
Let's talk about performative stuff. This guy's had a New Zealand music pin on his lapel the whole month. Good on him. If he hadn't have just shat the bed last week,
Yeah.
I'm all for it, right? You are there as a representative of the government. Your job is to sit there, nod, maybe take some photos with some people, and don't shit the bed. And you failed to do that. And then again, we've had our absolute nonce of a Prime Minister come out and go, oh yeah, one of my ministers has been a fucking slaphead, has he? Oh, well, I'm pretty comfortable with it. I had a word with him. Like, it's actually a breach of the cabinet manual, what happened.
Explain that. What exactly has been breached?
We'll remove Chris Bishop. We'll add his breach there. This is from the Cabinet Manual. In all of these roles and at all times, ministers are expected to act lawfully and behave in a way that upholds and is seen to uphold the highest ethical and behavioural standards. This includes exercising a professional approach and good judgment in their interactions with the public, staff, officials, and all their communications, personal and professional. Ultimately, all ministers are accountable to the Prime Minister for their behaviour.
Isn't it lucky that the Prime Minister is a jellyfish? Isn't that nice?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? There are no standards.
Yeah.
Like, I have been to awards dinners for my employers before where I've had too much to drink and someone's had to take me aside and go, Jesus, Chewie, you better put a lid on it. And that's it. You get that. I'm sure you would get that in the levels of business that Luxon has operated in. You keep your shit together, especially if you're in the public eye representing your employer. Why is this good leader that comes from all of this good business leading skills that he's brought to the table, because he's not a politician, has somehow missed this?
Yeah.
And can't take someone aside and gone, you fucking embarrassed us and you've got to eat some pie. You've got to eat some humble pie now.
Yeah, well,
it's a breach of the cabinet manual, and the Prime Minister has let him away with it.
Let's get back to it to see what else he does actually say.
As I said, it's not about Stan Walker. I actually quite like Stan Walker.
And Chris Bishop says
Bullshit.
he won't be apologising.
There you go. And you just got a little sneak peek of the last story, which I know you're all very excited about. I just think
actually that's
the
bullshit.
thing that's important about this. Well, important, that maybe that's the wrong word. I have to be honest, I watched the stand up when they were talking about like the 6 minutes of stand up, and the journalist did get a little bit too sort of, but it was the New Zealand Music Awards, you know, like some of the journalists were a little bit too OTT. To me it's just like, so should we list up, okay, so if this is an isolated incident in and of itself, he had one drink too many and he said something stupid, fine. But should we line up the 10, 18, 20 months of smashing Māori and Māori issues and Te Tiriti issues that led to this? Because when you do that, when you line up, you know, no, we're going to use English first. When we line up, we're going to take funding away from this. When we line up all these things all the way through, and then you get to that comment, you go, it's just another example of what they think of Te Tiriti and Māori in general. I don't think you can look at it any other way. If it was a oncer, you'd go, we all say stupid things with the skin full, but it's not. Yeah. It's the next moment in 18 to 20 months of anti-Māori, bashing Māori policy and statements from this government and one of their ministers within it.
Yeah. I am also going to include the other government minister with sitting in the chair next to him, Paul Goldsmith. What did he say? Did he pull him into line? Did he go, you know, you're sitting there with a colleague who's acting like a dickhead. Do your job. The other thing that I love here, I love about this story, Don McGlashan wades in straight away. He hears it, has no idea who's saying it. Calls it out immediately and tells him to sit down and shut the fuck up.
The dickhead.
He didn't know who it was when he did that.
Yeah.
And then he did work out who it was and didn't back down. Told him to shut up, dickhead, which should be the hashtag that follows anything to do with the Bish from now until the election.
Hashtag
be
the
on his
Bish.
billboard.
Hashtag shut up, dickhead.
Hashtag
by
shut
David.
Up, dickhead. Don McGlashan's an absolute champ. And again, the politicisation of music, can we just point out that one of his songs is No Depression in New Zealand, an absolute timeless fucking classic. a heavily political song about the Muldoon government. So, Bishop's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. The tobacco spokesperson, someone that's like, where is his redeeming features, if any? 404, not found.
Kiwi Bird says New Zealand can only afford one drunk uncle at a time.
Yeah, they've all rallied their forces.
Gazoo, had a break from politics due to severe mental health decline, getting back on my feet now. Here for Chewie rants, Guy from Toitu Hikoi at Chewie.
Good stuff, man.
Vesta, Chris Bishop just revealed himself to be a brother of Karen Blunkett. And Peter says the PM is so comfortable he must be wearing sweats and polos when he's not in front of a camera wearing a suit or unnecessary hairnet. Yeah, I saw that today. What the hell was he wearing a hairnet for? Bald. Anyway.
I have been one to make that joke so many times, and I will continue to make that joke. I actually have the answer. Does anyone care about the answer?
Please.
Everybody has to wear hairnets.
No matter what.
Yeah, no matter what, because if someone's not wearing a hairnet, it sticks out. So, yeah. And it keeps, like, maybe he's got a really flaky head or something. Who knows? But, yeah, I like the fact that it was a red hairnet that made him look even more like a clown.
I think regulation and doing things for health and safety might be an absolute perfect lead into our next story. To be really honest.
If we cut the safety regulations, Luxon won't have to wear a hairnet. That's why we're doing it. Got him.
Let's have a look at Stuff News tonight.
The government says Worksafe needs to spend less time policing and more time advising. But with one Kiwi on average dying on the job every week.
I was shocked with that. Were you aware of that?
Yeah.
One Kiwi a week.
I haven't heard it verbalised by that, but, certainly, in our area down here in Dunedin, there was a guy in an engineering works down the road from me. He died at work not long after a government visit. I'm not linking those two things, but it was really close to Luxon being in town.
He didn't like die.
The forestry industry, fishing industry,
real bad.
all very dangerous.
But I would think one a week, right? That basically is 500 a decade. I struggle to think that there wouldn't be a workplace that would be struck by that at some stage. That's shocking. And I guess the next question should be, is it people dying because of work or at work? I used to work with a guy called Bruce Russell who used to do nights on News Talk ZB, and he died at work, but it was a talkback show, and he had a heart attack in an office out the back.
Traditionally very dangerous industry, late night talkback.
But I mean, so that's the question. But I was shocked, one a week. And what they're going to do to help the problem is have fewer safety regulations. That's what they're going to do.
Critics say it will put employers' comfort ahead of workers' safety. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has the story.
New Zealand's workplace death statistics are grim.
New Zealand has a shocking record for health and safety. Somebody dies on average every week in New Zealand at work. That number is dwarfed by the numbers of people who die as a result of work.
And now the government is dialing back Worksafe's powers to enforce the rules.
We have too many people spending too much time, money, resource on tick box exercises and compliance.
Such as, Minister, this is where this is where we do that thing about looking for the information. Such as, from a safety point of view, what are tick box things that don't need to be done? Such as, and I would like someone to ask the question this, Chewie, under your new regulations, how would that have made Pike River not happen? Because you're saying that this kind of stuff is too much regulation. So let's look at that.
A lot of these regulations that they're talking about and the way that they're enforced and policed came out of Pike River.
Yeah.
That's what's especially galling about this.
Yeah. Yep. So this is one of those examples. I watched One News as well, so I don't know whether it's a story where she thinks that they're very, very concerned about safety whilst they remove one layer of safety. It's the same as we're very concerned about smoking in New Zealand, as they remove smoke-free 2025. We very much want to support Te Reo Māori whilst they remove Te Reo Māori from government locations. This is the definition of gaslighting. It's the if you open the dictionary, this is the story you'll see.
Worksafe's role is being rewritten. Less enforcement, more advice. The Minister is also questioning where responsibility lies.
When I've been out on the roadshow, one of the things that was really strong was this idea that you can give people as much training as you want, but if the business owner leaves the work site and people then disobey the training that they've had, where does that fall?
So, have no training.
We already know that.
Much better.
We already know that.
Have no training. Let's just because people can't be trusted to follow the rules when the boss is not around. Have no training at all. That's a much better result. I think that's how it will work.
The Council of Trade Unions says the onus should be on the law and enforcing it.
It's a step backwards. Telling Worksafe to reprioritise and stop enforcing and concentrate more on guidance on the basis that some employers feel intimidated or scared of Worksafe really is, in our view, a bad reason for going soft on health and safety. The government seems to be more concerned about small business getting fined and being scared of Worksafe than they are about workers getting killed and injured at work.
Labor is sounding the same alarm.
Going to work every day should not be a death sentence, and yet on average more than one person a week is dying at work in New Zealand. We should be really shocked by that, and we should do something about it. I think changing Worksafe so that it basically becomes just an advisory government body rather than actually enforcing the laws around health and safety means New Zealanders will be even more at risk at work.
The government is also launching the road cone tip line.
Oh, good God. Talk about the government that wants to treat every single dollar as our own dollar, launching a new department, a new service, in case you, the public, think there's excessive use of road cones. You know those road cones that are supposed to guide us?
Public.
Yeah, that are supposed to guide us away from like the people working on the road, you know, and keep them a bit safer. It's a bit of a visual thing to keep those people who are working on the road safe. If you think there's too many of them, you can dob them in now. Big issues.
I
issues.
don't know about you, Pat. This is how I'm going to deal with that. Every time I see a road cone, I'm going to call that tip line.
Imagine if you had to call it 12 times because there was like a dozen of them in a row. Call it one.
I've seen three cones. Hey, it's me again. You'll never guess. I found another 6.
Yep. We've got 9 cones out here across the end of the road. I believe that's
I think
excessive.
they could do it with 4.
Oh, maybe 7. Can you please get someone to come and pick up those 2? What's the other thing? What are they going to do? They're going to then send someone out to remove the road cones. It's like, it's utterly bemusing.
Dob in excessive use.
We're also really concerned that the Minister seems obsessed with road cones as some kind of barrier to better health and safety. We think that's a very poor choice of diverting resources.
When the government is saying that their highest priority when it comes to workplace safety is road cones, when we have an appalling workplace death record in this country.
But Van Velden stands by the shake-up.
Look, the whole reason I'm doing this is because I do actually want workers to be safe.
There it is. There's the gaslight. I want workers to be safe, so we're going to stop forcing businesses to keep their workers safe. We're going to start operating as an 0800 number and just advise from afar. And I want them to be safe.
I just want to be very clear. I care about those people and their hivers. The hivers people. They're not normal people. They're people that wear hivers all the time. It means that we can see them because they're different. It's just nonsense. What about this is going to make those dudes' jobs safer?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what? Like her question that she mentioned earlier of like, oh, you can train these people, but then the boss isn't there directly looking at them and they do something wrong. You know, whose fault is that? It's very clear. The person that disobeyed the instructions that they've been given. That's there for the employer's safety as well. Because it's very clear. The tick boxing that they're talking about is, hey man, you know the piece of equipment that you're using is dangerous, right? And we've made sure that we've trained you how to use it safely, correct? Yes. tick the box. Right, I'm going to the other part of the job site. That guy then does something horrifically off the book with the piece of equipment and someone gets hurt. You've got the tick box that says, as the employer, we went through it and he knows that what he did was wrong. I'm off the hook. He's on it. These guys trying to look after businesses have put them more at risk of being sued or punished, because there's now no clarity on whether they told him he could operate that equipment the way that he did. It's fucking stupid. It's so stupid. This is only for the benefits of the owners, never the workers.
100%. Let's just get to the end of this. I think we'll hear her say it one more time.
Look, the whole reason I'm doing this is because I do actually want workers to be safe.
But many are questioning
Lies.
if advice and a hotline will do the job.
Yeah. And this is, I guess that's the new hotline for cones is going to go right along. I know there's been lots of cannabis jokes out there for cones. Well done. You're all very, very clever. We'll go right next to the hotline for, they just go, you get a hole in the road and you got to fill it with things. Potholes. There we go. I'd lost the word. It disappeared.
Yeah. Look, a New Zealand pastime is taking a road cone and putting it somewhere inconvenient, on top of a church, on top of a flagpole, at the top of a very tall tree.
Why can't they just think of the university students that will have fewer road cones to put on top of trees? I mean, come on.
This is what's going to make the country safer. I'm now going to go out in the middle of the night, find a cone, scale the first church of Otago and put it on the top, and then call the hint line that I've found an extra road cone. Like, it's just pathetic. And you know what I found out? This isn't a new idea. This isn't something that they've come a new original thought. John Major's government in England did this when they thought they had too many cones. And guess what? It was just a money hole. It didn't save any money at all. It was just people wasting their time. Because nobody's going to go out there and count these fucking road cones. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
And look, just very last thing for tonight, guys. I just want to say one thing. I don't give a shit about polls. This came out TVNZ tonight, and shock poll, shock movements. Everyone is within margin of error. It is such a nothing story that TVNZ has put out the word shocking. It's a shocking poll. It's not. And the thing that annoys me more than that, check this out. Stuff, headline news. ODT, headline news. Yep. News Talk ZB,
bullshit.
Headline news. RNZ, not headline news. It's just, I'm not interested in. I mean, like, there was some movement by 1 or 2 degrees. So, well, okay, whatever. And all the other media can go play with their assholes. That's their, I don't know what that is. I'll stop talking now. I'm just not interested in it. But anyway, on to the important stuff.
I mean, if you look, like, well, sorry, go ahead.
JC and the Pigeon Cats. Hello, road cone hotline. Yes, I'm on the road and my cone seems to have burnt out contents. Can I get an urgent refill? How many kids are going to be on that phone line recording themselves talking about we need more cones down at this end?
It's me. I'm that kid.
Be. I wonder, was Anchor Me actually about the cancelled ferries? That's what funny, Gareth. JC again, sick of all this red tape curtailing my right to compromise other people's safety. Kiwi Bird, productivity goes down when workers get hurt or die. Really? Like 1 less person on the work site, that's going to make it worse? Yeah. This government is a coalition of callousness and homie. All right, peeps, let's write anti-act slogans with cones. There you go, Chewie. Sorry, I kind of interrupted you with, the show, but you can jump in now.
No, I got one last thing, and then we can wrap up and all go our separate ways as friends. You know how times are tough, right? There's got to be belt tightening across the board. We've talked about lots of government programs that are aimed at saving money and cutting costs and all of that sort of thing because they're responsible, like a household budget, etc., etc. You remember that? You've noticed that?
Mm.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about if we just open a pub
in
Parliament? We just, it's important that we cut costs and that sort of thing, but there's the leader of the House pouring a pint of some pretty mid beer.
Called something like the pint of order or something?
Pint of order.
Pint
It's
of order.
even got a bad fucking pun. That's made me even more angry about this story. That's so dumb. But yeah. Oh, good. They've made an English pub or smoking room like a transatlantic ocean liner. Fantastic. I hope they have a lovely time in their taxpayer-funded pub.
Well done. Hey, different week this week, whānau. You're aware. Chewie and I will be off on Thursday night. But I wanted to let you know that this week's episode of Locked Out is featuring Gary Payinda. So Craig Rennie and Dr. Gary Payinda on Locked Out, that will be coming out this week. Other than that, a reminder, Chewie, that we're going to be meeting up with some people in Auckland this Friday night at the Long Room in Ponsonby from 7 p.m. And if you're a patron and you'd like to come along to a bit of an earlier conversation, then it's on patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Anything else?
Oh, and for a Dunedin family, Craig Rennie is in town. Did you know that?
I didn't
He
know
is
that.
he is doing a talk about the Robin Hood budget at the Dunedin Library next week.
Oh, there you
I believe
go.
on the 10th.
Wunderbar. Maybe we'll have to go along and like heckle.
See him in real life.
I'm sure he's not in real life. He's probably like 4'4" and, elf-like or something. All right, guys. Reminder that tomorrow night, Marilyn Waring is booked in to have a chat with us. Hopefully, we're recording that tomorrow around lunchtime about the People's Court. Now. No, it's not that again. It's the People's Committee, isn't it? And also, once again, a huge thanks to you guys who participated in the merch for Women's Refuge. It was pretty cool transferring $900 to Women's Refuge over the weekend. And it's all thanks to you guys. And if you did it yourselves, and you can still go there now, safenight.nz if you want to do that again. But other than that, I guess we'll catch you tomorrow night, Chewie.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, team. That's me. That's you, Chewie. Anything you want to add to the conversation? Back tomorrow night from 9.
I will be back tomorrow night from 9.
And then on Thursday, we will be winging our way to Auckland.
I won't be back from 9.
No.
I'll be at Auckland.
Okay. All right, team. All the best. If you're expecting merch, you may well get an email tomorrow. There'll be 3 or 4 people who will be waiting until next week, and they're the people who ordered specifically Women's Refuge merch sort of after about Thursday of last week, which is only, I think, 3 people. So we'll be in touch tomorrow for everyone else who's waiting. And we'll be back tomorrow night from 9 o'clock for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo, team.
Cheers, man.